Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. We'll begin the evening with public comment. If anybody signed up,
No, the last time I looked, there was nothing.
is there anybody that wishes to speak for public comment before we move on? Okay. We'll move on to updates from council, if there are any. I'll just say one update. We had the Easter egg hunt in the park over the weekend. I was incredibly successful, so thanks to Parks and Rec for doing that. Mr. Walker let me know there's 2,500 children, so that's pretty incredible that our park handled that. They did a good job. All right, moving on to the consent agenda.
I think that was their biggest crowd. Our Parks and Rec director, was mentioning. I think it's the biggest crowd he's ever seen.
Yeah,
the Easter egg hunt.
a
So.
lot. Sorry, Bob.
Let me go over one other thing, just in case I'm not here next week. The Department of Transportation, we had a couple of meetings, and two of the things that are kind of interest to us, we're developing a prioritized list of projects that will actually be worked with the limited funds we have. And one of the things that Henderson County did, DOT took out of their prioritized funding list the Highway 64 bridge going over the interstate, rehabbing that. And the people in the Henderson County Traffic Advisory Board said that that was too important of a project to take out, so we requested that they swap out another project, and the other project was some widening work to be done on Canuga Road. So those two we think are going to be swapped out, so they'll do that bridge and redo the lights. So hopefully Four Seasons Boulevard will work a lot smoother than it does now. The other project that was swapped was actually in Buncombe County, and that had to do with Sweeten Creek Road. They realized that the money that they had for Sweeten Creek Road was nowhere near enough. The price had gone up so much. So initially, a couple of representatives from Asheville recommended that they swap out a project out Lester Highway and the widening of 240 in Asheville from Haywood Road to where 240 and 26 meet. And most people didn't like that. You're building this whole I-26 and you're going to leave it as 2 lanes for a couple of blocks. So the compromise that we came up with was they're going to leave the 240 widening in there. They'll take out the Lester Highway project, but that doesn't give enough money to do all of Sweeten Creek. So the compromise was we're going to try to do Sweeten Creek from where it's 4-lane right now all the way up to Mills Gap Road, the intersection there. And the other part will have to be funded at some later time, but at least that'll get the traffic up to Mills Gap Road, where hopefully some traffic can turn off there.
Thank you for that update. You got a council update? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions, comments, concerns, any item on there?
I get a correction too.
Oh, did you have a correction on the minutes?
Yes, he gave them to me, and
Okay.
I fix it. I always check them again before I submit them.
Before you were issue. Sure. All right, so there's no comments on the consent agenda? Okay. Moving on to item number 4, the discussion on ordinance related to the speed limit in the Windsor Forest subdivision. Mr. Manager?
Okay, thank you. So this is a follow-up item from last month on the discussion on the speed limits on all the streets or roads within Windsor Forest. So as I mentioned, I believe the consensus was lowering that from 25 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. In order to do this, by general statute, we have to pass an ordinance So, referencing that section within our code, you've got in your packet a ordinance that amends our existing code for roads that are listed for given speed limits. Some of the language in our code of ordinances, it's quite old. It goes back, must go back to incorporation on several things. So, so it looks a little bit different. You don't see as many just streets like this. You'll have 8 streets listed. This is all the ones that are within Windsor Forest, and you know, if you'd like, you could move it to consent, or if you have any other discussion on it, you can keep it as a discussion item. I have my mic on. Sorry, I have my mic on.
It's okay. From my perspective, that there was consensus here, so I would suggest moving this item to the consent agenda next week if there's no opposition to that.
The only thing that I had is, I thought we were gonna try to provide notice of what we were going to do to the people that live out there, so it's not a surprise to them when all of a sudden this happens.
Will this take effect immediately?
It would take effect essentially immediately. As soon as the signs go up, then it becomes really effective. You have to do the ordinance and then the signs go up.
Is there a good way to communicate that to the Windsor Forest?
I mean, we could do a flyer out. You know, a letter would take a little bit of time to get that mailed to all the property owners in there. I didn't know that you wanted to do notice to everybody. I thought because we had discussed that a little bit of that generally.
I mean, we don't
support
have
for
to,
that.
but I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if we end up with a lot of people that say, no, this is not what I want, why didn't anybody tell me what was going on?
I mean, you've been discussing it in the meeting, so if we want,
Yes. I guess it has been printed up in previous months' minutes, because we've been talking about this for.
yeah, I think we've had something in
All right,
the
then that's, I'm
about
fine with
it.
that. If they didn't read the town newsletter, then that's, the onus is on them. Okay.
So, okay.
But, yeah, I'm good.
Oh, did you have something more?
No, I was to say we could still do some flyer or something and try and get that out, but if y'all are comfortable, or we can wait a little bit until
I mean,
the signs go up.
if a
If
bird,
you're good
if
with
our
that.
flyers are too burdensome, I mean, that might be helpful. But other than that, I would suggest moving this to consent agenda next week.
Yeah.
If there's no opposition to that. Sounds like not, so if you don't mind, let's move that to consent agenda next week.
Since we're on the subject, can you update us on the Lewis and Barnes? I know we got a letter, and I know it was indirect, Brandon has some questions about that letter as well. Any updates on Lewis and Barnes as well, not just Windsor Forge?
Well, I know there was, when you saying a letter, this is
Running
regarding.
Briar, yes, I mean, Running Briar.
Yeah, so we've got a list of all those roads, I think it's from the letter that you're talking about, that are identified to do a traffic study with our traffic monitoring equipment. And we've done one already, Running Briar Road, that I forwarded a copy of that to you via email, and we can make it available to anyone else who wants to see that data. But and as time permits with Public Works, we'll be hitting each of the other streets.
So basically, we get the other ones.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, they're set up to do the other ones
And
as well.
one of the other things we discussed a little bit was we wanted to kind of do this one first, see how it goes before we tackle a large one like that one out there.
This would be nice to still get some updates, make sure.
Yeah.
Shows that we're still moving on.
No, yeah, I was talking with, Jabbo about, well, I sent them the list, and they completed the one Running Briar, and then they'll, we gotta have time to put it out, and them to set it up, and yeah, we do typically 7 days, and then and it generates a report from there. But the others are set up to be done.
Okay.
Do you think we'll have a report by next month meeting?
You will on several more of the streets, I don't know if all of them.
Do we have any other questions, comments on item number 4? I think we're okay with consent agenda from here.
Yeah, and, you know, related to that, I'll just make one other comment. You know, we talked about doing, the traffic calming policy and updating that, so I'm doing research on that, and, we hope to have something together here in the very, you know, in the near future. It could be as soon as the, you know, May meeting, but it will be relatively soon. We'll have something back for you to discuss and potentially approve. Okay.
Sounds good. Moving on to item number 5, a resolution for the restriction of truck traffic on Fanning Bridge Road. Andrew again.
Yeah, so in follow-up again to some of this other discussion regarding, the truck traffic on Fanning Bridge Road and, you know, support from the town to go to DOT to ask them to revisit restricting that, on that road. I drafted a resolution, you got a copy of it in your packet. It basically speaks to, since the town's been incorporated, the amount of growth in traffic on Fanning Bridge Road, the predominantly residential nature of all the adjoining neighborhoods that, you know, but that, the 2-lane nature of the road, kind of the grade or topography issues and the kind of windiness of the road. And then we defined heavy trucks as tractor trailers, which is the truck and the trailer, and dump trucks as heavy trucks as a definition. And then we reached out to DOT several times in the past about this, and then the last thing is for them to consider restricting heavy truck traffic from basically through traffic, just using that road for traveling and not delivering a product, which really on that road, we really don't have, I can't think of any destinations right now on Fanning Bridge where they'd be, you know, delivering or picking up a product. It would have been formerly the limestone plant, so Old Castle was the last name of it, and it's closed. So if y'all approve this, we'll send it to DOT, and kind of get that ball rolling as far as that request.
Did we write a new one or just kind of, I mean, did you go back and look at the old ones before you wrote this?
There was no, we did letters, we did requests, we did a whole bunch of emails and a lot of things on 3 separate occasions. I don't think we'd ever done a resolution, but it's just kind of something to formally put that request or start that process in motion. So I just drafted something new.
Yeah, the only other thing I would mention was when we met with Senator Moffett the other week, it was brought up to him, and I assume they'll communicate that with Representative Falcon, so I'd like to let delegations aware of the issue as well. Are we all okay with the resolution?
Yeah.
Do we like to move that to consent agenda next week as well?
Sure.
All right. Like to next week. Moving on to item number, is there anything more on that item? Moving on to item number 6, discussion on budget amendment number 7, ordinance for building security upgrades. Is that you, Mr. Public Works Director?
That is me.
All right. Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Did you find that bulletproof plexiglass?
Well, you know, it's a long ways to go right there. Let me get this set up. I will read to you what they turned it up as. And they call it, it's called a bullet block. It's 1 1/4 inch, a clear, and we got all these other numbers, and they call it a bullet abrasion. So that's what it's called. It's a bullet abrasion resistant acrylic and clear bullet resistant sash system with aluminum channel. And they've got a drawing of what they can do. And, but that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the first two steps is changing the doors, the swings, and changing all the hardware to where all access is through push button technology to where it is that way. And then this will come in for next year's budget. We're trying not to just overwhelm. You know, you throw $125,000 out at one time like that. And even if we did have throw it piled on this right here, the chances are it'll be done before July is slim to none. Because they would be the third step of this situation. That's why we're trying to do these first two right now. Change the hardware, or just change the door swings, and change the hardware to where it's set is. The first two is gonna run about $65,000, and the next one will run about $65,000. That's why we're looking at doing this, is we're gonna reconfigure the three doors, this one right here, the one at Parks and Rec, and we're gonna change those out and put this all in type door with 3 to 33 glass down the side. And that's what we're looking at doing. And then we will put the push button technology. And I think I mentioned this before. If you ever come down Public Works and you want to go in our building, that's what you got. Most places have something similar to that. The fire department has it up here. And that's how you control the access to it. And it's very simple to change. So they say, I've got people that can change it for me, so I don't have to. But, you know, we've had to change it twice, I think, just from people's labs. You know, it's good to change things around. And I don't know. I don't know the way rooms with lots of, but that's pretty much what we got. You have any questions?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I think it's unfortunate that we have to take these measures, but obviously,
I agree.
they're needed everywhere now. So,
The only good question I have has to do with the next phase. If it's inch and a quarter thick, that stuff's got to be pretty expensive. And how big of an area do you plan on making glass? The whole thing, or?
Yes, sir. There'll be glass, we're going to install 2 new doors over here into the LM closet. There'll be a door on the right side when you go in, a door on the left side when you go, or next to the side window. And all across the countertop will be this, inch and a quarter plexiglass. And there will be 2, I don't know what you call them, pass through, speak through, where you can speak through. And there'll be an engine right there where people can slide their work in and out that way. It's something similar to what's down in the police department, just a little bit more updated, I guess you would say.
Any other questions or comments?
Did you ever consider doing away with the second door, just to save money?
I'll do whatever you want.
'Cause I'm not sure we need 2 doors there.
I was saying that photos anyway.
I think and we can do a cost comparison on it, is it's gonna cost something to fill that whole space in, so whichever, I guess is less expensive, we get a quote on that.
The 2 doors are estimated right at $7,500, so that's $3,750 per each side. So, you know, it's like Mark said, if you're gonna have to put building to the wall there, you're really not gonna save a lot of cost, you would save some cost. It's however much you want to do.
That's something to think about when you size that phase out, for sure.
Well, this will be in the first phase.
Oh, that's in the first phase.
Yes, sir. We need to get the doors changed and this changed, so that everything else will fall in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing the new fiscal year request would be the plexiglass.
Oh, okay.
And one thing, you know, I'm not an opponent or a proponent, it's one or the other, it's just, you know, it's what we have to do. Once we get the doors up, that might change the look of things altogether. But it ain't gonna change, you know, the access part. People won't be able just to walk through there, there's still a count there.
So the complete answer is the 2 doors in the admin building, or the admin side, and then,
Door behind you,
the door behind me.
and the doors on the Parks and Rec comes up. They will be reversed, these will be added, and then the new doors are.
Okay.
So when we get all this done, if someone comes in through like the bottom door, let's say we're meeting in here right now, somebody comes in that bottom door with a weapon or something, they could get up the stairways into the common area. Well, I guess this door would still be open. Yeah.
There's only two ways that we can prevent that. One would be keep that door locked and restrict access to this here. And then still they would be coming in, what's what we're looking for here?
But you wouldn't be able to do that
You'd have
because
to post-
handicap have to have access to the elevator.
You'd have to post somebody there to
Yeah.
make sure that.
We want to get a cost comparison for on the one door in the admin building or admin section or the two doors.
I don't think we need to if it's,
Okay, yeah, I don't think we need to either if the cost isn't going to be a huge difference.
So you have to fill the hole anyway, you don't
Yeah.
need it all.
If that's the case, I think everybody fully supports this for obvious reasons. I'm suggesting moving it also to consent agenda if there's no opposition.
it's fine.
We're okay with that?
Yes.
All right. It's going to be elected next week. And finally, comments, Mr. Manager?
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. So I mentioned last week, or not last week, excuse me, last month about the FOCO citizen survey being complete, and we had about a 21% response rate on it. The report, we didn't get until they didn't finish their full report till a week ago Friday, and then we got that email, and that forwarded a copy of the full report to you. It's a long report, you know, it's 80-some pages, so it's a lot to go through. I have skimmed through it and tried to spend some, but I want to read through the whole thing carefully, and you know, if we'd like to put it as a separate agenda item, I thought, you know, we could do that, and then try and maybe pull out, if you'd like me to do, pull out some sections to highlight, maybe some areas to draw attention to, like areas for improvement, and maybe where some of the strongest feedback was.
I think that's a great idea for council and the public.
Yeah. And then we'll try and, you know, put something together where we can post it. Of course, we could post the entire report, but it's a lot to go through, and if people want to go through it and spend the time, that's fine. But I'm just trying to give some thought to maybe some highlights from it that might be a little bit more useful or helpful for y'all to look at and discuss.
The bar charts were pretty good on that.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised at how, I thought something in there would have been rated higher than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we weren't really, we were either higher or at par, I guess, benchmark, yeah, yeah.
A few things like transportation, stuff that we didn't specialize in.
Yeah, and the I mean, y'all put a little bit of cost towards our Apple Country Transit, which is the only transit system we have, and we know it's quite limited, so, but we don't run a transit system. So, you know, some of the things, and, you know, we discussed this, were kind of their boilerplate, a little bit of kind of a broad spectrum, excuse me, of issues, of local issues or local services that aren't all local. Some of them are state or federal types of things, but at least you get feedback on all of those things, and you know, we can share it with the appropriate party, but you've got some gauge of what the public's thinking. You know, like one other interesting thing in there, and you know, we don't provide medical services, but there's some substantive feedback on basically like medical infrastructure, like you know, what docs offices or services or ambulatory surgery or what have you. There's that's kind of interesting to hear back. Our downtown, you know, in commercial development, there was a high interest in that. And that's obviously something you spend a lot of time on and put a lot of resources towards, so.
I kind of wish I had more of a, just one-on-one with the, I say one-on-one with the community, is actually see what their actual thoughts. That's one thing I kind of wish it had there.
Yeah,
And it's based off comparing to other cities. I guess that's how the benchmark was made.
yeah,
And
that's correct.
I'd rather see what the actual town citizens think versus us compared to other cities. I mean, it's a decent survey. I kind of wish we could get in the future maybe a different survey, a good one-on-one with the actual our
Maybe
citizens.
some more custom or have more than, if we can add some more open-ended discussion or comments, so you could just share.
See what their vision is, how Fletcher
Yeah.
is growing and stuff like that, make sure we're in the right direction versus compared to other cities. Some people might not want to know how, or be like other cities, they want to be Fletcher is Fletcher. That's just my way of doing it. It's a lot of pages to go through, I haven't went through all of them yet, so I said,
I think it's some decent feedback in there. And we've got people interested. I had an email today from a resident who wanted to know the results and why they weren't in the newsletter that just came. We're like, we just hadn't had time to put that in there. It just came in so recent, so.
We're gonna put it on the website, so.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to, we didn't want to do that until we all had some discussion or feedback on it. And then we'll do a follow-up report, try and pull some highlights from that.
I think the thing that we got the lowest scores on was support for the arts.
Yeah, that was one as well. There's just not a lot of art,
Exactly.
cultural things like that here, the amenities in Fletcher. I thought it was interesting, though, you know, particularly some of the public safety stuff was really high, public works services was really high, value high, and scored high. So I'll do a follow-up item with you on that. We'll do that for May. If it's okay, we'll put that as a May.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Just give it one more time, yeah. The second thing I wanted to mention, so, we've been gathering feedback on kind of the request for additional things for DOT to do relative to the I-26 project and impact it's had on Wildwood, residents mostly. As far as the increased noise, they did a burn. The burn really is not helping much, and it's gonna take a long time for those trees to grow in. We put something in the newsletter, so we've been trying to compile feedback from residents, basically kind of opening this back up to hopefully a dialogue with DOT where they would reconsider sound walls there, which is just really kind of shocking it didn't qualify when you see some of the other areas where they're put up and, you know, the impact it's having on residents over there. So we want to gather as much information and data as far as who specifically is noticing this and what their comments are. We conveyed it to Senator Moffett when we met with him the other week, and I've had some communication with the division construction engineer, Mitchell Bishop, and Mr. Bishop has spent some time with some Wildwood residents out there, and he's bringing this back to Raleigh. So we hopefully this can be reconsidered, but we need to push hard on it, and the residents need to. So if there's other suggestions you have about ways we can kind of gather that feedback from the public, I shared a spreadsheet that Susan Hefner in our office that compiled the information very nicely.
Who reached out to those people?
Well, so it kind of got started, a resident, Mr. Brown, David Brown, had been emailing me. He's emailed me about lots of things, and and just knowing what's going on there and how much worse it is and other residents, and we even had some of the Windsor Forest, it was a year ago, pointing out kind of the
No,
deficiency, of, you know, mitigation stuff that could be done, like sound walls. And, so he brought that up. I was just having some discussion in the office and sharing it with you. And we thought, well, maybe we put something in the newsletter. You know, we could do a blackboard call. You know, we can have a little survey function in there. You can even put like a couple questions, yes, no. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise you'll lose people on it. But, you know, other things to do to engage the public, to get feedback on interest in it. So those are some other things we can do. So far, we're getting pretty good response from them. So I think in addition to putting it in the newsletter and asking for it, someone there was generating, getting the word out, in the neighborhood, which is good. So I think that's helped for us to get more response back on it. And so hopefully that'll help the cause here to push this back to Raleigh to get this added back into the project. Because we certainly feel it's warranted.
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
yeah, you look at where they put the walls in other places, and there's virtually nobody where the houses are as close to the road as these are.
right.
I honestly think that they did something wrong when they did their original study, I really do.
Yeah.
I can't believe that anybody who looks at that can say that doesn't qualify.
I totally agree. I mean, I see some of the other areas that where they're, oh man, how in their formula did that qualify and this not?
Yeah.
It's just, so, so we'll continue to stay engaged on this. I want to hear back from the division construction engineer, Mr. Bishop, with more information about that. And hopefully our residents will continue to reach out. But like I said, that chart that you saw, you know, Susan in our office compiled a lot of good information there. And so if y'all are hearing other things, please let us know. And I think our state legislators are well aware of it. So we need to, once we maybe get a little bit more feedback, I want to make sure they get that list of comments.
Well.
So send that to them, send that to DOT. Maybe any other feedback with Chuck McGrady, who's our DOT board rep.
I'll say Senator Moffitt did seem sensitive to the issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we'll follow up on that. Next thing I wanted to mention, so we had in our budget this year for another gateway sign to be added. You know, we updated the one at the north end in front of First Citizens as you come into town on 25 there, or leaving town as well. But at the south end, we had in there to do one. We went out for bids. Custom Wood Designs was the low bidder on it, and we're going to be locating it. It's kind of just in front of Southern Concrete. That was kind of the nicest natural location in front of these this vegetation or like a clump of trees. So, and it came in under budget, thankfully. So I'll be meeting them out there. We're going to do it a little bit different than the design. That it'll be the same, almost identical sign that's there, but the way it's held will be with two columns or piers on one on each side with like a stone veneer. So it should look really nice. So that I don't have a timeline yet on installation, but we just finished the bidding process on it. The next thing was as you all know, we had our meeting with our state legislative delegation. That was back on March 24th, and went over our legislative priority list. We set it up for Representative Balcom and Senator Moffitt. Representative Balcom could not make it, so we had a good meeting, I thought, with Senator Moffett conveying our legislative priority list, the list of projects that they had asked for consideration for funding. We had those three. And then, of course, we talked about the sound wall issues or noise there along I-26. So I thought it was time well spent with the senator. So I guess next thing is kind of knowing if we'll get any consideration for these projects or requested funding assistance. So unless there's any questions on that, the next thing I wanted to mention was, we had talked about Fernleaf Charter School is interested in approaching y'all about satellite annexation for their wilderness campus off of Old Hendersonville Road. I had a conversation because we invited Michael Luplow, the school administrator, to come and talk to you all first before they kind of started the formal process. And he called last week and said he wanted to kind of pause on this. They were trying to work through some issues with the county about what security, basically, assistance they'd have there, like school resource officers, and because we're not sure if you were to annex, there might be an expectation that town funds school resource officers for it. And
That's a county function, right?
well,
It's supposed to be, right?
yes,
So it's the library.
in Hendersonville, yes and no, because City of Hendersonville wound up funding some of them for the schools. So I think you want to kind of sort some of those things out, because I know there were some concerns about, expectation for services, and, there's no tax contribution there from that, so. But
I would see that being pretty difficult to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
for our police department.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that there would be a definite request, but there was some conversation about that he had with the county. So, I think it's probably wise to pause that, because that obviously would cause some concern on our side. So at some point he may be coming back, I'm not sure on that, but I just want to let you know that. The next thing I wanted to mention was, we got our official comments or letter back from DOT on the traffic impact analysis. Nothing really changed from the list of mitigation improvements from what I've already shared with you. The most substantive is the right turn lane if you're coming east on Fanny Bridge Road towards the 25 intersection. A dedicated right lane there, turn lane coming north onto 25, so basically by the auction house. And then going westbound here on this side of Fanny Bridge Road up to the intersection, a right turn, and I'm not clear if that's going to mean cutting into the road or right away, or having to acquire more right away from the landowner there, but basically reconfiguration, slight one of that intersection going westbound with a left and then another left and then straight and then a dedicated right turn lane. And then of course our extension of Old Cane Creek Road. So those are the most substantive things. Kind of the next step is talking to DOT about this. I've sent it to Will Bowie. He was copied on the letter to see, what, since he's working with our former developer team, what their thoughts are about it, and then clarification from DOT, what's the level of contribution that would be expected from developer town on that. So that's just the latest. So I'll let you know after we have a conversation with DOT and our developer team. And then
It almost sounded to me when I read it that DOT was expecting somebody else to pay for all this.
well, there always is some expectation of some level of contribution from the developer to do these things. Now, you know, we'll probably try and negotiate or argue back that there be some mutual contributions, since some of these issues were there prior to
Right.
this development, and, you know, argue that that development doesn't necessarily really contribute to a high increase in these traffic movement
Right.
issues. So, so we'll see. And then just last thing again, I know we've mentioned multiple times, we've got our pill drop and document shredding event coming up on the 15th. I think there was some discussion about the fact that we've had all this extra mulch, that we were taking our brush piles and sending them to caisson builders, and their tub grinder's been broken, so we've had them piling up on the other side of the green storage building, and then Public Works was able to get a grinder in to at least grind it into a more manageable pile of mulch. Some of the challenge of the public coming to get it is help loading it, you know. So maybe we do a day on the 15th or another day where we could have some Public Works staff out there that could help. We know with equipment, load some mulch, if that would help people to take it off our hands and be helpful. So we'll look on coordinating a time for that. And that's all I've got.
Do you have any other business, council?
Yeah, one thing, Sunday morning I was driving down 25 and I saw that there was looked like a big backhoe or something out in the field on our Meritor property. Are they doing something over there?
I'm not aware of anything. I don't know if Jabo's aware. What it could be is the farmer.
There was a beaver dam. I noticed that everybody was up that way.
I couldn't tell what it
Well,
was.
I think that's what they've done, is they released the pressure in the water.
Yeah, I haven't heard in a while, a lot of them, but for a while there, we were really, the beaver dams were a problem, and having to tear them out. So, and we're still farming that, we're still leasing it for farming.
I've got a couple of other things. In the monthly report from the police department, they talk about several of our officers teaching classes at Blue Ridge Community College. Is the town reimbursed for the time it takes for our officers to teach these classes, or are we doing it for free, or what?
I don't think they're reimbursed. I think there's, I don't want to say an expectation, but it's kind of a norm for
Is it-
part of the BLET classes that local law enforcement in the area teach, some parts of it.
That money not go straight to the instructor, so it's one of the fire services do that.
I don't think
It's a
they're-
separate contract with them.
I can find out. I don't think they are, but maybe they are, and I'm not aware of it. But they have to do it on their off time. They're getting reimbursed paid directly.
And I was also looking over the audit that we were presented last month, and I didn't write the page number unfortunately, but there's a line that says, "We have identified the following significant risk of material misstatement as part of our audit planning." And they talk about improper revenue recognition and management override of controls. I don't think we were briefed on anything like that, were we?
That doesn't sound familiar, no.
It's not so familiar. Where did you see this?
It's in the audit that, I'm not sure which page it is.
Is this from the audit contract? Because we've got it as a consent item is this was this the underpayment to the fire department for revenue?
Oh, okay, maybe it is in here.
That's in the audit contract that we've got to approve.
Well, that's one of the problems which we should
Thank you.
mention to
Yeah.
Watermelon Church, that they put page numbers on their pages.
Okay, because we haven't had any issues like that from any of our audits.
Oh, yeah. Did you find it here, right?
Yeah, that's.
I can point to it, I can't tell you what page, 1, 2, looks like page 3.
It's double sided.
But she didn't mention that at all when she did the briefing to us, and that's why I was a little surprised. And I'm not even sure I understand them either.
Okay, I'll ask, because I don't know why that's in there. Because this isn't, when they've done the audit, this is a contract to do it.
Oh, okay,
For the
okay.
coming year.
Then
Yeah, so this is every year we have to update the audit contract, and so this will be for the work that they'll perform at the end of this fiscal year, for
Yeah, I have
FY
that contract.
22-23. So not the one that's been, the most recent one performed.
Because she said it was a pretty clean.
Oh, we have, yeah,
Responsibilities.
yeah, I think that's one of the
And
things, those
maybe
are
that
things
just
they
means that,
look.
because
for,
that's a typical problem at other places, that they're gonna make sure they look at it, rather than saying that we're deficient.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll ask, I'm gonna check with Louderville Church to see that, there isn't something, I don't know, that they're
Yeah.
pointing out.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have any other business in council? They were going in closed session, we're not ready for contract negotiation.
On a contract issue.
All right, we have a motion to enter closed session for contract negotiations.
Yes. So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion?